There were times that we were laughing, and there were those creative times when we were just really in the flow. And there were just as many, maybe even if not more times that we were frustrated with each other and triggered by the process. Even the experience of writing the book changed me. It showed me how far I've come in terms of my own healing. It showed me how much I've resolved, but it also showed me how far I need to go and what I still need to resolve. The only advice that I would have about that is fall in love with something and then start writing about it. Some of the things that happened in that book, it was very difficult to write about because I'm ashamed about it. I still hold shame about.
Welcome to the True You podcast. My name's Martin Kettlehut, and I'm an executive coach and author. And oftentimes when we start our podcast, Bill Tierney, my partner here, will introduce me as an author. And today I get to introduce him as author, and I would like to learn more about the experience of writing, and now having completed several publications, and familiarize our audience with them too, so that they want to run out and buy them.
They may want to, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that.
So one of them is a workbook, and one of them is a memoir. So these are interesting genres too. It's
very different. Yeah. As we record this, it's February 4th, 2026, and I anticipate that sometime around April or May, I will have 3 published works.
Mm-hmm.
2 more in addition to the one I already have published. So the first one is the Compassionate Results Guidebook. And that is a guide for anyone that wants to get results using the IFS model. They want to make changes in their lives, maybe accomplish some things. It's a great support guidebook for coaches to use with their clients, and especially coaches that already know about the IFS model and know how to use it. But it's also a great guidebook, I believe, for people that to try to make changes in their lives, even if they don't have the support of a coach. Maybe they get support of a therapist or a practitioner, or they just do it on their own. So that's what that one's about.
So like if I was starting a business or having trouble in a relationship or something, like these are typical coaching things, I could pick up that book, and it would be better to work with somebody, but I could get results just using the book by myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, if you or anybody that picked up the book were just simply to answer the questions on page 13, there's 7 questions.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen is you'll gain a tremendous amount of clarity about what it is that you want to change, why you want to change it, and what kind of obstacles you've encountered before that has prevented you from being able to make those changes already. And that in itself, as far as I'm concerned, is extremely valuable, because what you want and don't want, now you might be able to tap into some inspiration and motivation about what there is to do about it. And the rest of the book explains, not just explains, but shows someone how to identify what gets in their way and then what to do when that happens.
And what I would, if I were looking for it on Amazon, it would be called
Compassionate Results Guidebook.
Compassionate Results Guidebook by Bill Tierney.
Well, you see it behind me there. There it is.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. And this is what it looks like closer. Yeah.
Great.
And these notes that you see in the back, those are for the 2nd edition, which I'm already working on.
Oh my gosh. Already doing the edits. Great.
Yeah. I've just thought of a lot of other things I want to add to the book. So the exciting news, though, is that the Parts Work Guidebook is going to be available on Amazon in the Kindle version next Friday. So February the 13th, you can start picking up the Parts Work Guidebook. And many of the people that are familiar with my activities in the Parts Work Practice Group have been eagerly awaiting this release. It'll be available here in just a little over a week, and it aligns with the exercises that we're doing in that Parts Work practice, in those Parts Work practice sessions. So I'm just one of 5 authors. Alison Dyer, Monte, Noga Kreiman, and Islena Faircrest all wrote the book with me, and we've been working on this for about 4 years. So it's really exciting and a relief, frankly, to have it cross the finish line.
4 years is, I mean, it might sound like a long time, but I was just talking to a fellow author this morning, and both of us took 10 years to write our books. So do you think that writing it as a group made it faster, or?
Oh, man, I don't think anybody in the group would agree that it went quickly. It felt, don't get me wrong, we had a lot of fun. We did. There were times that we were laughing, and there were those creative times when we were just really in the flow. And there were just as many, maybe even if not more times that we were at juggernauts and log jammed and frustrated with each other and triggered by the process. And in fact, we had to really apply the exercises that we were writing to our very experiences. And frankly, we found that the exercises were either lacking and then needed to adjust accordingly, or that they worked really well. And we're all very proud of the 23 exercises that are in this workbook, because I believe it fulfills on the promise of the book, which is to take anybody, regardless of what they know about the IFS model now. It'll take anyone from brand new, I don't know anything about IFS, what does that stand for, all the way through to having a pretty workable vocabulary and usage of this very powerful tool. And and we actually tested it.
So even somebody who's well-versed is going to learn from this.
Absolutely, yeah. The guidebook will organize the understanding of why it works, as well as help improve how it works. And a lot of practitioners and therapists and coaches that already are trained in the IFS model and have clients, and they want their clients to be able to understand more about what they're doing and why they're doing it and how to do it. They're going to want to hand this book to their clients, because it'll help them in their coaching and their therapy and in their practitioner sessions. It's going to be far more informed and far more practiced. These are very practical exercises that they can give to their clients as homework between sessions, and they'll be able to mark they're actually going to be able to measure, using our self-energy access scale, the progress that they're making using the model.
I see. So how do 5 people write a book together? And I'll do this part, you do that part, or do you actually somehow all have your fingers on the keyboard at the same time?
Like, to answer the question, let me just tell you the story of what happened. In January of 2021, I decided I wanted to start a free group for people to come and practice the IFS model. What was going on at that time is that I was in level 2 training at the IFS Institute. And up until then, I'd been doing a free group supporting people in how to use the work of Byron Katie. I was sponsoring a bunch of people in adult children of alcoholics, and I had started a couple of meetings there online. You may remember 2021, beginning of 2021, we were just a couple of months into the full acceptance of the fact that we were dealing with COVID. And so pretty much forced at that time to go online, and you start using Zoom instead of meeting with people in person.
Yeah.
So I just put the word out there to a few people that I was going to be doing these practice sessions and supporting people in learning how to use the IFS model. And at that time, I was using the Weiss books, the self-therapy workbook, which was similar to the book that we've created now, written in a different form and in a different flow, but very useful tool for helping people to learn the IFS model. The first week that I had that meeting, that very first session, 30 people showed up. I just was shocked. Wow, 30 people. This is great. Awesome. And the next week there were 40. And so very quickly, I realized I was going to be overwhelmed by the demand of this. And I wanted to be able to meet that demand and needed some help. So I asked Alison Dyer and a few other people, would you be willing to come help me do Parts Work Practice? And Alison responded and said, yeah, absolutely. And then somewhere along the way, we met Emily Kerpelman, and she was willing to help us create Parts Work Practice. And we met at least every week to talk about what do we need to do to make this thing work better, what's not working, what is working. Then we brought on, it continued to grow. We were having anywhere from 40 to 80 people showing up for these sessions every single week. And then we moved it to twice a week, and we've gone back and forth with how many times we've met. But it was clear we needed help. We needed somebody to Zoom tech for us, and we needed people to help us facilitate these sessions because it was growing so much. We learned that we had to have people that were trained in the IFS model. Otherwise, people who were just learning about it themselves really thought that they knew what they were doing, but they really didn't. They didn't know how to support people. we learned some really hard lessons. Like, we're not here to actually go into breakout rooms and practice using the model with untrained people. And we don't have enough trained people to supervise it. And we don't want to be training anyhow. We just want to be helping people practice using it for their own personal growth and personal development. So we started reaching out to other IFS trained people and asking if they'd be willing to volunteer and help us. And so we began growing a volunteer team that now has 13 people in it. And these are people that all have been trained in the IFS model and that show up because they have this generous giving heart, and they too want to spread the word of IFS in the world. Noga one day said, one of the things that we found that we needed to do is to take Bonnie Weiss's book, the self-therapy workbook, and adapt it for what we were using it for in our group. I believe that she wrote it for an individual, and we were trying to use these exercises that she wrote for groups. We needed to change the language, and we needed to add a little here and take a little way there. By the way, Bonnie Weiss gave us permission to use the guidebook, or her workbook too. And so one day, Noga, one of the practice assistants, says, we should just write our own workbook. And so it was as simple as, okay, let's do that. There wasn't a great deal of thought. It was clear and obvious that we did need our own workbook. And we had other people that were involved in the process at first. It became so painful and cumbersome to try to write this book that many of the people that were involved realized that they were over-invested. They were giving it way too much time. It was way too frustrating. They had other things going on in their lives. So they went on and left the project to us. There was even a time when we all just decided, no, this isn't going to work. We quit.
Oh, really?
And the very next week I said, here's the way I want to do it. This is what I think will work. And that's how we ended up forming the 5 of us that ended up taking it to the finish line over the last three years. And in terms of how we did it, I did a lot of the writing, others did some of the writing, but we all went through and redid anything that anybody had to contribute. We met, all 5 of us, and we talked about, does this flow? Does this work well? Is this clunky? Do we need to change it? And then once we had all the exercises written, we needed to write the content that supported and explained the exercises and how they flowed from one to the other. And it finally came together. And now we've been in edit mode now for the last 6 months or so, just trying to get it ready to publish.
Do you feel like you learned from that working together about how to better write?
Oh, definitely. One of the things I learned was that I just need to slow myself way down. Yeah. And it's okay just to go ahead and put it on paper. I've got an idea. I'm trying to remember who the author is that talks about this. Big Magic. Who wrote the Big Magic book?
Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yes. So she talks about how she believes these ideas come and visit. And if we don't take advantage of them, they'll go visit somebody else. So I love that. So when the idea would come to me, I'd get it down on paper and grab it immediately. And it would be rough, but I would bring it to the group and the group would perfect it. And so it was a great experience. Also, I learned a lot about how to work in collaboration in a group. Honestly, I like to be in charge. I'm most comfortable when I'm running the show and in charge. And in a group of 5, in a democratic process, that doesn't work very well.
Yeah. So how did you deal with that?
I threw tantrums.
Okay.
I threatened to quit. I pouted.
Tried and true method. Throw a tantrum.
My young parts.
It's worked for young parts for millions of years.
My gosh, some of my young parts that learned how to be in community in my original family, my original very dysfunctional family, came out. Parts that I didn't even know that I had. But I'm not kidding. It's funny to be able to say, yeah, I threw a tantrum and I pouted and I withdrew. And all 4 authors would say, yep, that's what Bill did. They would, but they'd also say, and Bill came back. Bill came back, his parts, worked with them, and then came back and cleaned things up, and we were able to repair any ruptures. I wasn't the only one creating ruptures, but I certainly did. My share of ruptures.
So there must have been some growth and healing and returning to the true you that everybody got out of the process itself.
Yeah, I won't speak for everybody, but everybody would agree with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've had a lot of discussion about how there's something about this accomplishment that is far greater than this book. It's far greater than the pages and print in the book. It's the experience that we had even writing it. And in fact, Islena is the one that said we really should include in the book some of the experiences that we had as we were writing this exercise. So I think in at least 7 or 8 places in the book, we have a block at the end of an exercise that says when we tried this exercise.
Uh-huh.
And also in the beginning of the book, we write about what the experience meant to us and what we got out of it and what was hard and what was rewarding about the experience.
Lovely. That's great.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing process.
It is. Wow. So these aren't that other women's exercise.
Bonnie Weiss, no, we created these from scratch. These exercises that are in the Parts Work Guidebook.
And has she written an endorsement of this book?
She has not. We didn't. I wish we had asked her for that. That's a great idea. We should have done that, but we didn't. Yeah, I'd love to get Bonnie Weiss's endorsement of this book. And it's probably not too late. The print version is going to be another month or so before it's out, maybe even more than that. I mean, we probably have time to get her endorsement. So, Bonnie, if you're listening, we sure would like the endorsement on the book.
Yeah, or for the second edition. I mean, oftentimes the opening of the book's second edition has many more additional endorsements. So that's I'm that would be great to have hers of all people. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just making myself a note. Yeah, so those are 2 of the books. The first book is self-published, the one that I held up, the workbook, the results guidebook.
Right.
And that was quite an experience and learned a ton there. Really made me appreciate our publisher of this book much more. When I really
my first book was self-published as well.
It was, huh? Yeah.
I know what that's like.
Yes. Yeah. And I had help. Hats off to my virtual assistant, Ari, who does so much of the behind the scenes work for me so I don't have to. I hired her because I love coaching. I don't love doing the admin. Mm-hmm. And by having her do the admin for me, I can coach, I can write, I can teach, I can train, and she can do all the admin for me and I can stay in my joy.
That's so great. What a great relationship. I'm sure she gets huge benefit out of reading all this and profiting from the work.
Oh, it was so interesting. We recently did the Parts Work conference, and Ari we could not have done the Parts Work practice conference without her because she put together the ticketing platform. She didn't create a ticketing platform. She used a ticketing platform, plugged all of our stuff into it, managed the sale of the tickets, managed the website, created the landing page, did the follow-up, edited the videos from the conference. She did all of this stuff. And in one meeting just prior to this is the second conference we've done. We did one back in September. We did one in January, and we're planning to do one again in May. But in one meeting with the presenters, I called on her. She was in the meeting because she was taking notes about everything that we were talking about and any decisions that needed to be made. And she was going to make sure that we implemented all those things. But I asked her, hey, one of the things that we did at the beginning of that meeting was let's do something that we do in Parts Work Practice. Let's go ahead and connect with our parts by noticing what parts are active and alive inside right now. Mm-hmm. And so we went around the room and I surprised her. Everybody in the room said, I'm noticing a part that is excited to be here, for example, and joining with you guys and seeing you guys on Zoom. We've been working in a silo. And another person said something like, I'm noticing a part that's a little bit nervous about being here because I don't feel like my presentation's quite ready yet. So we get all the way around to Ari and I said, Ari, would you speak for a part? And I expect her to say, oh, no, thank you.
Right.
But she's been our Zoom tech in, I don't know how many, 30, 40, 50, maybe more of Parts Work practice sessions. Yeah. And she's been helping me with my marketing that all has to do with IFS. She sees every single one of my blog articles. I can't help myself, but I'm going to be talking about everything in my life through the lens of parts and IFS. So she's been taking a lot of this on and learning it really indirectly. She spoke up and said, hey, my name is Ari, and I'm noticing a part that is excited to have everybody together here today. Great. So she's learning, I think she's learning a lot about herself and about her parts as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
She's lovely.
Now, but this other book, the memoir, this is a whole different thing.
Oh yeah. So we're shifting gears here. Now, the third book
Mhm.
that will be published, and it's at the publisher now. I've already approved the book cover.
I assume that is you on
It
the book cover.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
picture of you as a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Very darling picture.
Mm-hmm. I was a cute little kid.
You are.
Yeah. And most kids are, what's cute about little kids is they're just so innocent.
They're cute. They're kids.
They're naive. They're just perfect.
Yeah.
And so I've approved I've got a bunch of really beautiful blurbs and endorsements and reviews on the book already. I sent out a sample. You were one of them, and I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And we've gone through one round of edits. And I think the next thing that happens is that I'll get a version of the book from the editor, and I'll go through and look for anything that got missed in the edits. And within the next, I would say, probably 4 to 6 weeks, we're probably looking at getting it published, getting it printed and available for people to purchase. It's called Surviving Myself. And can I tell you the story how that came about?
Oh, I'd love to hear it. Yes.
Are you looking for a way to apply IFS in your everyday life? The Compassionate Results Guidebook can help. It blends IFS with coaching to help you work with your parts, make self-led choices, and live in the world authentically. You can order your copy on Amazon or learn more at CompassionateResultsGuidebook.com. Now back to the episode.
Probably 3 to 4 years ago, I was running Success Club groups, and then they converted to other types, but they were all these IFS-based groups.
Uh-huh.
And as I evolve the way that I coach people in groups, I'm learning more and more about what works and what doesn't, and what do I want to accomplish, and what's really not feasible in a group, what is.
Mhm.
And so I brought in, I'm trying to think of the name of the workbook that I created that we were going through in this group. But I brought in 6 people in a group that met for 12 weeks. And when that group was finished, I was in a conversation with one of the graduates of that group who said, Bill, it sure would have been nice to have had a workbook as we went through that. And what he missed, and what obviously I didn't do a very good job of doing, because I had not published the book, I just only had it in a PDF.
Mhm.
I provided him and everybody else in the group a link to the workbook, but he's an old guy like me. And when I told him, I gave you that link, and he said, links me. That doesn't work for me. I want paper in my hand. I want something that I can. And I said, well, then maybe I should do that. Maybe I should go ahead and just go through it again, rewrite it, and get it published. And that way in future groups, I can hand them or can have them go purchase one of these workbooks. He said, and if I can help you write that. I said, tell me more. He said, I'm a writer. I write memoirs, and I got a pretty good eye, and I might have some ideas for you for how to write it and what things to say and where to put things and how to organize it. It'd be great. What would you want to get paid for that? And he said, what do you think of coaching me using IFS? And we'll just do a trade. And so Jerry and I had been working out a trade now for the last 3 years. And so it started out with him helping me to rewrite the Self-Led Project. That's the name of the workbook, the Self-Led Project. And the more I wrote with him and the more I read, so I read his memoir, and I thought, this is great. I love your memoir, Jerry. I think it's called How I Learned to Love the World, I believe is the name of his book. It's excellent. I highly recommend it. His name is Jerry Waxler.
Mhm.
In fact, he was on our podcast.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, that's right. So we've been working together for the last 3 years, and over time, I kept changing my mind about what I wanted what wanted the book. At one point, I said, "What if I were to write some of the stories from my life and then couple them up with the exercises? Maybe that would work out well." He says, "Yeah, that's going to be hard and tricky, but yeah, you could sure give that a try." So I started moving that direction for a little while, and then I really started enjoying writing the stories. And then Jerry and I would meet once a week or once every 2 weeks for 90 minutes or so. He would read out loud the stories that I'd written, and then we would stop and edit. And he would offer me suggestions like, Bill, you got to remember that you're only 8 years old at this point in the story, and you're writing it as if you're a 70-year-old. That's going to be confusing for the reader. You need to write it from the perspective of the 8-year-old so that the reader can go along with you and be on this journey with you every step of the way.
Right.
So write it from your 8-year-old perspective. And that was a challenge. Oh my, how the heck do you do that? And yet I did. I was able to find a way
That's
to do
great.
it. Yeah. So there's
By accessing an 8-year-old part, or just how did you get into that mode?
Yeah, I think so. I think I just accessed my 8-year-old self.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remembered, for example, seeing Blackie and Susie. Our dog's name was Blackie. Susie was the dog from across the street. Susie was a girl. Blackie was a boy. And one day I saw Blackie and Susie playing piggyback. And I thought, wasn't that cute? And I ran to my sister, Jeannie, who was 10 years old. And I said, look, Blackie and Susie are playing piggyback. And she just scoffed and told me what an idiot I was. Though they're having sex. They're making little baby puppies. What? So how shocking. That was so shocking at 8 years old, or whatever age I was at that time, to learn that that's the first time I'd ever heard about sex. I didn't know what sex was. So anyhow, I was
definitely comes across. Like as I was reading the beginning of it, I was like, this feels like 8-year-old think, and I can see how the dilemmas arise for an 8-year-old, or the surprises like about what, it's not playing piggyback. And like I was really having an 8-year-old experience along with you as I was reading.
Oh, great. I'm so glad to hear that.
And then there are also moments where there's a turn of phrase or an idea or something that I also know of you as in your current age. And yet it's being expressed by an 8-year-old. So there's like this continuity too. Like that's Billism,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. It was also a lot of hard. It was hard. One of the things in the book is that my parents did the best they could, but they didn't do very good. They had their own trauma, and a lot of that trauma got on me and my siblings. And it was difficult to break through the built-in defenses against letting the family secrets out. It was difficult to, once I had moved in that story from being essentially the victim of that family to being on my own at age 19 and making my own choices, convinced that I was going to be different than my parents. Some of the things that happened in that book, it was very difficult to write about because I'm ashamed about it, because I still hold shame about. So I was able to do it, but I really leaned on Jerry for a lot of that too. Not so much for the emotional support. I knew what to do with that. I had a lot of support around IFS for that, but for the encouragement to just write it. And this was his advice: just write it. You can decide later whether you want to keep it in the book or not. Get it out there. Just write about it.
My gosh, it must have changed you.
It really did. Even the experience of writing the book changed me.
I would imagine so. The way you're describing what you had to go through to get it out. You're a different person having written this book.
What it did, Marty, was it showed me how far I've come in terms of my own healing. It showed me how much I've resolved, but it also showed me how far I need to go and what I still need to resolve. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it surprised me. Some of the things that I felt and still feel, even though I've written about it, the fact that it was hard to write it pointed to trailheads that I still need to explore, and healing I still need to do. It's process. Mm-hmm. You probably had the experience reading those 82 pages sample that I gave you of recognizing this is someone who's far from perfect. This is someone who is maybe not all the way broken, but pretty damaged.
Yes.
Would you say that's true?
Yeah, it's moving. And that's one of the ways in which it's moving. Because when you read, someone telling their story, you identify, you get into their world, into what they're feeling and thinking, and identify with them. And it was moving to do that. Very moving.
I so appreciate that you gave it that depth of attention, that you were moved by it.
Oh, it's hard not to. I think anybody who picks it up, unless they're just looking for certain words or something, they're going to get moved, I think.
It occurs to me that the rest of the story is the book kept growing, and I had a contract with a publisher to keep the word count at X number of words. And that was our agreement.
60,000 or
something like that.
Yeah, that's what mine was.
Yeah.
And I had to cut stuff and consider paying more so that they could put more. And I know it, I've been there.
And so I hit that and then flew right past it.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh,
now I
wow.
had 120,000 words, and now I had 170,000 words. And so I finally decided this needs to be a 3-part memoir. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this out loud for anybody else to know, because now the pressure's on. Now that I've got the first 329 pages out in book 1, that takes me up to page 2 to the age of 27 years old. 20. I'm working on book 2. And as of right now, Surviving Myself is the name of the first book. And I'm not sure what the name of the second and the third book will be, but so far the working titles are Surviving Myself, book 1, Finding Myself, book 2, and Being Myself is book 3.
Oh, that's great. Lovely. Yeah. Wow. I can just, it's, do you think it'll ever be made into a movie? A trilogy? We'll want to go back here to see the next installment.
I will stay focused on, do I think it'll ever get written? And I'm writing it, but I'm finding it very challenging and difficult. There's so much going on in my life right now that it's very difficult to find the time. It seems like I can't just sit down for 30 minutes and start writing.
No, I know you need big chunks of time.
Yeah.
Because you got to get into a certain space, and sort of have it all in your head, to be able to, I at least that's what it feels like to me. It's like I have to get this whole world conjured up, and there's only a half an hour, forget it.
You're just getting set up. You're just getting set up, and now it's time to move on to another thing. And my internal system doesn't work that way. Like you said, I need big chunks of time. I need to be able to just write until I'm not writing anymore. And I've thought about things like doing things like just getting really disciplined. And I may need to do this. I may just need to get really disciplined and set up an alarm and write for an hour, 4 or 5 mornings a week. Maybe that's what I'll need to do, because I don't seem to be slowing down in terms of the things that I'm taking on. Mm-hmm. So I've got 2 more parts of my memoir to write. I'm busy creating a curriculum for training coaches on how to use the IFS model in coaching. That first cohort is full, and then we'll start here in March, and so we need to be ready to teach that, and we are. But I've got a lot of work to do to prepare for that. My coaching practice is just on fire. I'd like to get some more group members, but I've got as many one-on-one clients as I can handle right now. Mm-hmm. And I somehow I had the idea that at my current age, I'll turn 71 next month. It probably would be slowing down a little bit. Most of the people that I know that are my age are retired or retiring, but I have no interest in that. I am really on fire for all of these projects. And the biggest question is when, not if, but when book 2 is going to be done. My goal is to get it done by the end of this year.
It just goes to show, I think, this is my interpretation, that when you're plugged into self-energy, it keeps you young, it keeps you vibrant.
That's been my experience. Yeah. Now, I don't always feel young and vibrant, especially after 5:30 in the afternoon. But I am.
But you wouldn't even be countenancing all this growth and all this new business and all this creative work if you weren't accessing some deep source, if you weren't like plugged into the sun, right?
It does feel like that. It feels like I am resourced beyond myself.
Yes.
It really does.
Amen.
What a pleasure to be interviewed by you around my writing on these projects. As you can tell, they are all labors of love, like my tantruming and my parts that get activated when things don't go just exactly the way I think they should go, or as quickly.
Well, I want to ask you one more question, if I could, because a lot of people, when I talk about being an author and or just that I like to write, they get interested, like, I've wanted to. I don't know, what is that like, the writing process. I don't think I could do that. There's all these thoughts about sitting down to write. Even if I ask people to keep a journal, coaching clients, there are any number of reasons why that can be very useful. Morning pages as one, but
Cameron,
but also like to complete the day, to go what happened. It helps people get wound down and appreciate themselves. There's lots of reasons to journal. And oftentimes people are just, I don't know if it's trauma from school, not being appreciated for their writing in school or what, but there could be any number of reasons. But I wonder, because you weren't a writer, so to speak, for many years of your life. This is a new
I wasn't
thing.
even a reader. I got all the way through high school, and I think I read 3 books because I had to. I hate reading.
So do you have any words of, how to access that for our listeners?
The only advice that I would have about that is fall in love with something and then start writing about it.
That's great. Yeah.
I fell in love with IFS. I fell in love with coaching. And then with Jerry's help, I started falling in love with telling my own story. Yeah. And Jerry, by the way, is a great memoir mentor. And if there's anybody that's interested in exploring that for themselves, and he'd be the first to tell anyone, we're all prospective writers. Any of us can write. And what there is to do is to just start writing. And if you can get some feedback from someone that can give you some guidance on what to write, how to think about the writing, and see if it's something you can fall in love with. I'll make sure that Jerry Waxler's contact information ends up in our show notes here.
That's great. Yeah.
And maybe we can have him back on the show again.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I love that the conversation ends on love. That's really the driving force.
So what did we talk about here? We talked about my books.
We talked about your books, but we also talked about the process. And, not only the circumstances, but the process that brought these on and drew out your love that got poured into these books.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we did. And the history, the story behind the story. And it's a lot of fun. It was a fun conversation. I hope the listeners will enjoy it. What do we want to call this? We'll let the listeners listen in on how we create the name of the podcast episode.
I like the title of the second volume.
Oh, Finding Myself. Great.
Finding yourself as writer.
Finding myself as a writer. Yeah, that's awesome. Great. That's what we'll do. Okay, Marty. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Till next time.
Bye.
We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.